Well, Sean, it's the moment you've been waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. NFL is back.
Oh, I wasn't going to talk about the NFL.
Okay.
No, actually, NFL back. So we got some National Football League action tonight with the Dallas Cowboys, or as the Philadelphia Eagle fans probably call them, Cowgirls. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady he's in his 100th season now, something along those lines.
Feels like it. Feels like he's been in the league ever since I've watched football, and I've watched since I've been like 5.
Yeah, he probably has been in the league that long. He's like 44 years old or something like that. He's on his way. He's on his way to the Hall of Fame for sure, and as well as that, maybe another Super Bowl bid. What do you think?
Maybe, but man, the time's got to run out sooner or later. But we've been saying that for the last 5 years at this point.
Well, he's got more Super Bowl. He's got as many Super Bowl rings as Aaron Rodgers. He's only been in the NFC 1 year.
Yeah.
But some interesting news, some breaking news in the NFL. I guess Gus Edwards might have hurt his knee pretty badly, so that can downgrade your fantasy squads if you have Gus Edwards. You probably thought, "Ooh, you got one there," and then unfortunately, well, easy come, easy go, right? So looks like Le'Veon Bell might have a resurgence. I don't know. The guy's he certainly didn't do anything last year in Kansas City, and his comment about how he went to Kansas City because it was the place he figured he'd have to play the least amount of football is not inspiring to me.
Yeah, and there's always that one team in the league that's supposed to be good that just gets beat up by the injury bug, and it's the Ravens already. I mean, the third running back already.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Ravens will be just fine because the way they running game is blocking and all that kind of stuff, X's and O's, and the X and O's are fine no matter who they hand the ball off there. They seem to do pretty well. And Lamar, if he has to, he'll carry the ball 15 times. He just upped his fantasy value a little bit, just as long as his knee holds up throughout the course of the year. He's not the most thickest of dudes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it happens to him, their season is done.
Yeah. Well, just hope what doesn't happen to him will happen to me. But I can't figure how many ways can a guy lose a baseball game. My Lord. I'm up 5-0. I don't know. I didn't have time to go study it today to look, but go 5-0 going into the bottom of the 8th against Baltimore. And they scored 9 runs in the bottom of the 8th. And what makes it worse, Sean, is that they scored about 4 of them because of errors. And then in the top of the 9th inning, of course, Kansas City gives you a little bit of hope. They're like, "Here, Rich, there's a little bit that you want. I'm going to score 3 runs for you and get within 1, and maybe you can get to overtime, extra innings, and get that game into your." No, but no. And I didn't look at this either, but I can't imagine that Baltimore scored 9 runs in an inning all year long and before last night.
Probably not. Yeah, add that to your first.
I'd imagine too that I would guess, just to flat out guess, that maybe they scored more than 9 runs in the entire game, a handful of times, the most.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you never know. Some of these teams, they have those games. And that's something I didn't research.
Yeah, but their run differential is so horrible that it's hard to imagine that they top 9. I could probably go back and look it up, but it's not that important to me because I don't want to relive the nightmare that was the Baltimore Orioles putting up 9 on me in the bottom of the 8th. I mean, what the hell is that? So, Drew, how are you today, my friend?
I was going to say with the Gus Edwards injuries, my picks are as fragile as the Ravens running backs right now. So,
Yeah, be careful. You live close to Baltimore. They might show up at your door.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the game, Sean. No more procrastinating, right? The NFL starts tonight with the defending champions and one of the worst teams defensively in the league last year. So the Cowboys, Sean, are getting 9 and in some places 9.5. That number looks like it's continuing to rise. I wouldn't be surprised if by game time that number moves its way up to 10. Right now at 9.5, about 55% of the tickets are on the Buccaneers, and about the same amount of money is on the Buccaneers. If you're thinking about taking the Cowboys in the money line, you can get plus 360, and that's only about 9% of the people are taking that, but minus 420 on the opposite side is collecting over 90 cents on the dollar for the Buccaneers. As far as the game is concerned, the total, Sean, the majority of the money, but not much, 55 cents is on the over, with the rest obviously on the under. I don't think anybody's betting a stupid tie at 51, 52, 51.5, somewhere in there, depending upon your book. let's get cracking right on the game, Sean, and maybe we'll talk about a couple player props and see what you like and what's out there tonight. So right now, Sean, Drew, you got the Bucks -6.5. That's good because that line certainly needs a lot.
Yeah.
Kansas City -3.5, Tennessee -3.5, 49ers -3. We'll be talking about all those NFL picks on Saturday evening. We haven't picked the time yet, but we're going to put them out Saturday night to give everybody some time to digest what's out there and then see if indeed some line movements come by the morning where we can maybe play it both ways. All right, Sean, first up, the game. What do you got?
So I'm leaning Tampa Bay minus the spread, but I'm not going to take it. It's just opening week. You don't know what's going to happen. And, that whole fade to the public, it seems easy to take Tampa Bay giving up the 9 points, but it seems like a lot of points too. But I will say the Cowboys secondary is horrible. So Brady's going to eat them for lunch.
I think that you're wrong on that, Sean. The Cowboys secondary is actually the one part of the defense that's not bad.
They're going to be one of the
worst defenses in terms of stopping the run, but the pass, they're not that bad.
Yeah, but their secondary is really young. They've been trying to address it for the last few years. It hasn't worked. So I actually like a player prop with Brady. Go over 307.5 yards tonight.
Dude, you're nuts.
I'm nuts.
He's not going to throw over 300. He's not going to throw over 307 yards. I'm actually on the other side of that player prop. I think the Brady throwing over 307.5 is extremely unlikely to happen. I wouldn't even be surprised if Tampa Bay doesn't go over 300 yards. If they're going to be effective, they're going to run the ball because you can run the ball on the Cowboys. The one thing that the Cowboys might have this year that they didn't have last year with the addition of Micah Parsons is a decent pass rush because the kid's going to just be a wrecking ball on the field. No question about it. I think if the Buccaneers are going to win this game, it's going to be on the ground. I don't know about Zeke with a TD tonight at +100. That's a pretty tough call for me, Drew, because that defense is just brutal against the run. I mean brutal in the good way for Tampa Bay.
And Zach Martin's out with COVID protocols too, so
maybe I wouldn't be surprised to see like a fake the handoff and Zeke and Dak keep it, but I don't think they're going to run Dak much off that ankle injury either. So that might limit their offense a little bit on that side. For me, I think the number one player prop for me, hands down, is Giovanni Bernard. If he plays, because I know he was a little dinged up coming out, but they said he practiced. But if he plays, he's going to be their third down back. I wouldn't even be surprised if you don't see a whole lot of Leonard Fournette tonight. Didn't really play a lot in the preseason. It looked like Ronald Jones took over. But Giovanni Bernard catching the ball for 12.5 yards with Tom Brady. If he takes over the James White role in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, I think he's probably better out of the backfield than James White was.
Absolutely.
And probably faster. So that's one catch for Giovanni Bernard in that spot. So if he plays tonight, I'm going to go ahead, Sean, and I'm going to put because I'm not big on player props. It's just the roll of the dice. But if he's in the game, so if he's declared in, then I'm going to put $10 on Giovanni Bernard to go over 12.5 yards catching, which to me is one catch. That's it. Maybe two.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. We'll see what his role is. They're always switching between Fournette and Ronald Jones anyway, and you're right. Bernard is great out of the backfield, which will be perfect for Brady in the screen game.
Mm-hmm. But I do not like your Brady player prop at all. The one thing the Cowboys did last night, I'm telling you, I haven't projected to throw for about 280 yards as in the game.
My only concern about my player prop is that Tampa Bay runs away with the game and he doesn't need to pass.
They're not going to run with the game away either.
As long as they keep passing and Dallas keeps it close, he should go over this easily.
I don't know, Sean. I'm not doing the player prop on that, but I think Brady under 307 is under 308 is a very good bet. As for the game itself, Sean, I like the Cowboys getting 9 points. If you can get I can get 9.5. So I'm going to take the Cowboys taking 9.5. And this is what I can see happening. The Cowboys are down, maybe 14 points. A couple minutes to go in the game. Get that cheap touchdown at the end for the backdoor cover, ruining everybody's night on the Tampa Bay side. But I really don't think it's going to come down to that. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. Brady usually starts the season kind of slow, which is another reason I don't like the Brady player prop. He's got actually I think he's like one game above 500 in his career on opening night. So he's not really been that strong of a performer. It's one of those guys that, especially as you get older, he's building momentum. So I like the Cowboys. I'm leaning over. I think the game goes over 52. Some lines are 51.5, but I'm not over by a big enough margin to go ahead and take the straight up sucker, every home team favorite and over bet on opening night.
My concern about the over is that usually defenses are ready to go more than the offenses. It takes them a little bit. And the fact that neither one of these teams' offenses have really played in the preseason, especially the Cowboys, it may take them some time to get into the game. So logically, it should go over. But if it's a slow start, it's going to put you behind the 8 ball to get over the 52, 53.
So I'm going to put 10 on Giovanni Bernard going over 12.5. 15 on the Cowboys, getting 9.5. Those are my 2 opening NFL bets. And I'm usually not big on player props, but I feel pretty good about Bernard if he's actually going to be the third down back. He should be able to catch the ball a couple times out of the backfield. And if he does, for 13 yards is not really asking for that. Break 1 tackle and you're gone. You've got that bet covered. All right, Sean, that wraps up the NFL for the first night. Like I said, we'll be back Saturday in terms of the entire slate of games, and we'll also put out our fantasy football rankings. Hopefully you caught yesterday the show on how to create your own NFL power rankings, and even by the power rankings on that, the Cowboys covered. But I also did my own point projections and all that sort of stuff. So I think the game is going to be about a 4 or 5 point game that the Buccaneers win. That's what I predict. Hopefully I'm right.
Yeah, no, I'm concerned about the defense and Zach Martin not playing too. That's going to really affect the run game. So the screen game with Elliott.
I think you put too much emphasis on players, Sean.
Well,
they're all NFL players, my friend.
You know, the screen game with Elliott will be a key to Elliott and their backup. They'll need to do some screens and stuff like that. I don't know how much they'll run against Tampa.
Probably they won't run a whole lot against Tampa, I don't suspect. So next up on our board is the only other thing that's playing today, Sean. That's MLB Baseball, right?
Yep.
And let's take a look at the MLB scoreboard right now. You have the Chicago White Sox trailing Oakland like they lost yesterday. So I lost on that one too. Funny thing is I had in my mind that the final score was going to be 5-1 before the game started. Just didn't know who was going to win. And it ended up 5-1. Which I thought was absolutely crazy.
And what really stinks for both of us is I was on the other side of that game, but I needed the Braves to win. So the Braves lost, and then I get that. So it didn't work out for either one of us.
I agree with Drew, too. This is something we didn't address. The Cowboys are stacked at wide receiver. And what's interesting is, as good as that Buccaneers defense was in terms of stopping the run, they were equally bad in terms of stopping the pass last year. And I don't know how much they did to address that weakness. And I expect it'll still be a weakness this year. So if Dak is ready to go, Dak going over 307 is a much stronger likelihood, in my opinion. I mean, if there's a straight up bet out there, who's going to throw for more passing yards, Dak or Brady? I would be on the Dak side of that bet.
I'm sure you could find that bet. And their over and under were about the same. I think
Prescott they were both exactly the same.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say about the receivers is Amari Cooper is a good receiver, a great receiver, but he needs to step up his game every year.
He gets hurt every year.
Yeah, he gets hurt, but he also doesn't put up the numbers that you would think he does.
If you look at him, he doesn't put up the numbers you expect, but if you watch, that guy is always open. Because he's one of the best route runners in the league. If you watch him, just pay attention tonight. If you watch Amari Cooper and they show you, that dude is so good at setting up cornerbacks that if he had a quarterback like Brady, on his cut, that guy is open almost every single time. And I think if I remember correctly, there's some advanced metrics like the separation at the break type of thing. I actually think he leads the league by a pretty wide margin at creating separation on the break. In anybody. So I think that's really more not on him as it is on Dak.
Yeah. And CD Lamb, I mean, he had a solid rookie season. I actually expected him to put up bigger numbers, so we'll see what he does in the second.
Well, how you second bigger numbers with Andy Dalton? Well, I mean, Andy Dalton was throwing the ball on average like 3.4 yards per pass attempt. You can't put up big numbers like that.
Yeah.
The guy would have been hands down rookie of the year because the Cowboys would have been in scoring, just scoring affairs game after game with that terrible defense, and he would have had a much better season. I think you'll see him have a huge year. They said in the Cowboys camp too, he was by far the best wide receiver. And in college, the kid was a beast at Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When he was coming out of the draft, I wanted the Jets to draft him, and of course, Dallas got him. But like I said, I expected a little bit more out of him last year, though it seemed towards the end of the year he was putting up better numbers. So we'll see year 2 wide receiver how he does.
The best player on the defensive side of the ball tonight will be Micah Parsons. Mark that down. They say he's a generational talent. We'll find out. Minnesota at Cleveland. Oh, my Lord, Sean. I'm so tired of Cleveland. I mean, they got perfect game like through the first 6 innings last night, and they can't seem to hit a Sean fastball.
Yeah, and they got the big-time pitching advantage here. But again, and you want to take Cleveland minus 160 when they're really struggling. This is a pass for me.
Can't lose them all, Sean.
You gonna take it?
No, I'm going to take it, but I'm going to take it in a different capacity, Sean. I'm going to actually do a 4-team parlay today because what the hell? I'm in that kind of mood today with the NFL. I had a headache all day. I still have a headache, so I'm all hopped up on Advil and caffeine, so I'm not thinking straight. But I think Cleveland can't lose them all. Eventually, I mean, you can't go 3 straight games without scoring runs. Make it 4. I mean, you can, but statistically very unlikely. They have to regress to the mean at some point. If they regress to the just average offensive numbers, they're going to put up 6 or 7 today. If they put up 6 or 7, they win handily. So I'm going to go ahead and put Cleveland as team number 1 in a 4-team parlay. As far as the betting public is concerned, Sean, the money right now stacks up on, hold on a second. I hate the screen that I have on here, Sean. It just drives me bananas. But the money right now is definitely on it's on the Guardians to be winning this game. Approximately 3/4 of every dollar is on the Indians. So I'm back in the Indians in this spot too. New York Mets, the Miami Marlins. You have Jesus Luzardo, who gives up as many runs as you probably can for a starting pitcher, versus the diminutive Marcus Stroman. Got anybody here, Sean?
No, but I do, Stroman does give up runs, even though his ERA is low. We talk about that a lot. So that number of 7.5 seems awfully low.
Especially Luzardo gives up a ton of runs.
And the Mets offense is
it's not a 7-inning game, right? I mean,
that's what I was just thinking, but no, they wouldn't have started that at 6:40. So
no, that's not a 7-inning.
Yeah, so I'm going over here.
You're going to go over?
That seems way too low.
So is that official?
Official.
All right. I mean, I'm not on the total, but looking at the total in terms of what the public thinks on that spot, the over under 77.5. Woo, Sean, you're betting against the crowd because almost 90 cents on the dollar, a little under 90 cents on the dollar, back in the under tonight. I just saw
that would explain why it's 7.5. But hey, you want to be away from the public anyway, so.
Well, actually, the public is on the over.
Oh.
They have 70% of the tickets are on the over, but the money is on the under. That just kind of must not be a whole lot of money because it just flipped around as we were talking a little bit. But most of the money is back in the over. Someone must have made it just a huge bet just now. They must have heard you, Sean, and went ahead and picked up the over on that spot. But that's another team that's going to be in my 4-team parlay. I'm taking the New York Mets. These are all money lines. So I'm taking the New York Mets as team number 2, el número 2, in my 4-team parlay.
That's interesting because you're not a big fan of Stroman, but that says a lot about Luzardo there.
Yes, I've been on the wrong side of Luzardo. Actually, I think I was on the Marlins, the one game he won all year. Colorado and Philadelphia Phillies. Sean, your city's underwater, but the Phillies are not. They're playing pretty well again against the Colorado team that really struggles to produce on the road. Most of the people are back in the Philadelphia squad, almost 90 cents on the dollar, more than 80% of the bets. They have a huge home field advantage over Colorado and a large run differential to boot.
Yeah, and I hate being on the Philly side, but I'm going to give up the 1.5 here for plus 110. Colorado on the road. Philly's offense seems to have turned it around a little bit. They should put up runs. Colorado's offense on the road is not very good.
Yeah, I'm not doing any more run lines, but I can get you plus 110 is the maximum you can get, Sean.
Okay.
Well, the Phillies are team number 3 in my 4-team parlay. We have one more to go. And actually, the Phillies are pretty close to being a team that I would think about taking. So I am opening up as the season comes to a close. They're minus 175. I can get them as minus 175. I'm probably going to play them straight up minus 175 in my account tonight, but I'm not making it an official bet because I don't want to lose 2 if they lose in my parlay.
Yeah.
Kansas City and Baltimore. I don't even want to talk about this game next. But anyway, do you want to talk about it?
No, not really.
Yeah, I mean, John Means for Baltimore, and they have to be stunned, Kansas City, after just getting blown out in the 9th inning by a team that just, yeah. But if I were good,
Carlos Hernandez has been solid for KC too. KC hits lefties pretty well, so I mean, you could do KC. I lost this opening matchup with this team to two bad teams. I just not playing it.
Yeah, I'm done with the Kansas City after last night. I mean, I had a little throw up in my mouth during the 8th inning, and just that taste, I can't get rid of it. Toronto and the New York Yankees, and we said that they may not win, but the right side of the bet has been the Toronto Blue Jays, and if you just bet the Blue Jays in every one of these games, you'd be pretty profitable.
Yeah, and that was a good call by Drew, giving up a run and a half or whatever he did for plus 160 with Toronto. Tonight, you got plus 100. I'm just afraid. I'm just afraid the Yankees are going to turn it around as soon as I go against them here. So,
well, they got to win one sooner or later.
Yeah,
right? Gambler's fallacy.
This isn't. I don't feel all that confident with Toronto here, and I'm definitely not taking the Yankees. So this is another pass.
Another pass. Yeah. Again, if Toronto had not won all of these games, I would be really inclined to take Toronto. I mean, the Yankees got to win 1 out of 3 at home or 4 or whatever they've played, and to me, still. The right bet is Toronto. It might not win, but it's the right bet. It's the correct call. I'm not taking it. If you could take it, you can get plus 107 at the right book.
It might be one that if Toronto jumps out, the problem is the line's going to move so much, but maybe an in-game, depending on how this game goes, you could find a line and take Toronto.
Or maybe Toronto jumps out and you pop on the Yankees at a plus line later on. Washington at Atlanta. Drew says he's laying Atlanta minus 1.5. Sean, from minus 1.5 on the Braves, you can get minus 115. That's in your ballpark.
Yeah, it's in my ballpark, but I'm not. This pitching matchup and it's not in my.
The pitching matchup totally favors Atlanta.
It does, but not enough for me to give up a run.
This kid, a pitch. The guy throws like 100 miles an hour.
I understand. It's just I don't like it. Division game too. I don't like it.
Yeah, Washington sucks. That's game number 4.
So you're taking 3 NL East teams in your 14 parlay.
That's right. I'm the NL East parlay, baby. I'm taking the Atlanta Braves. So my 14 parlay, Sean, for $10 pays plus 454. I bet it in my account. I'm putting it here on the Moneyline Madmen as my 3rd official play of the day. So again, Cleveland, the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Atlanta Braves in a NL East plus the Guardians parlay.
Yeah, that's interesting because the best team out of there is the Braves. All the other 3 are basically 500 clubs.
Yeah, but who are they playing? They're playing terrible teams. I mean, Miami's not that good. I mean, they did win one the other day against the Mets. I was on that game, one of the few I've gotten right lately. And then Philadelphia, I mean, I think they can dominate Colorado at home.
They should. Yep.
And then that's it. I mean, yesterday I told you it was cold here in Chicago to play the under. Did you do that?
No, I didn't touch the line. The over just jumped out at me, but it was more if the weather was nicer out there, it would have went over. But as soon as you told me the other way, I knew to stay away from it.
When it's cool around here, it's going to be hot Saturday and humid. So if we don't like the Cubs and we don't bring it up, it should be a high scoring game on Saturday between the Cubs and the whoever they're playing. If they're playing in Chicago, by the way. All right, Sean. Well, that wraps up today. Just a quick recap. I took the Cowboys plus 9.5. I took Giovanni Bernard getting more than 12.5 yards receiving under the condition he's actually active. If he's inactive, I'm not betting it, obviously. And then I also took a 14 parlay, the Braves, the Phillies, the Mets, and the Guardians for plus 454. Sean, what do you like?
I got Tom Brady over 307.5 passing yards tonight. Over 7.5 runs for the Mets, Miami, and Phillies giving up a 1.5 to Colorado at plus 110.
Beautiful. That wraps up our picks for today. I won't be here tomorrow. I've actually got some personal things to do. So Sean and I will post all of our stuff for tomorrow on the Moneyline Madman website. If you haven't, go on over there and you'll see the story along with the supporting documentation on how to create your own power rankings and use that to create your own NFL lines. And then from there, you can see if there's any value on one side or the other. And then, of course, put your picks out there. Sean and I and everybody else are very interested in hearing what you have to say. And finally, Sean, if they want to follow us, where do they do it?
Facebook and Twitter, Moneyline Madman.
All right, Sean. So we'll be back early Saturday morning
And
Too early for me.
And again Saturday night.
And then sometime Saturday night, we'll make that announcement to cover every single NFL game in opening week. And also probably Saturday sometime, I'll put up those fantasy football rankings for you daily fantasy football players. Till we meet again on Saturday, Sean, hopefully everybody's tickets are winners, my friend.